Welcome to One Bite is Everything, the podcast that connects the food on your plate to the rest of the world. I'm your host, DiPrima. Most weeks, I feature interviews with thought leaders who join me to dive into what's up with your food, from a restaurant's kitchen, from the halls of academia, ooh, so sexy, from a farm, from a policymaker's office, pretty much from anywhere, because understanding your food systems requires a lot of lenses. And then there are days like today where a question or an issue comes bubbling to the surface, and I realize that you need some background, and, well, I do too. This stuff can be really complicated. Recently, I have also been writing about similar ideas on Substack in bite-sized, where I pick a simple concept like strawberries or English muffins or the ethanol sticker on your gas pump, and I follow it as far as I can stand it, usually through a rabbit hole or two. I will link it in the show notes. But today, I want to dive into the shallow end of the U.S. Department of Agriculture to make sure we know what it is and what it does and what it doesn't do. Recently, I've gotten questions on social media, for example, or actually comments about how all farmers get USDA handouts. You know, when someone says the word all, I know that it's time to do a deeper dive. So, here it is. Let's see how far this takes us. I want to start with a moment that happened in a congressional hearing room last week. Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, the ranking member of the Senate Agriculture Committee, opened her questioning of USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins with this. Chapter 12 farm bankruptcies increased for the second year in a row, now reaching 315 filings in 2025. And separately, Representative Angie Craig of Minnesota told Rollins that farm bankruptcies has surged 46% nationwide in the first year of the administration and 70% in the Midwest. I watched the clip, and what struck me wasn't the number. It was what that moment revealed about who's keeping track and who isn't. The Secretary of Agriculture is the person who is supposed to know those numbers, who is supposed to feel those numbers, who is supposed to wake up in the morning thinking about what they mean for the farmers that she serves. Today, I want to talk about what the USDA actually is, who it actually serves, and what has changed since January 2025. Because I think that most people, including people who care deeply about food and farming, don't really know what the USDA does. And right now, what it does and doesn't do has never mattered more. Let's start at the beginning. The USDA was established in 1862 by Abraham Lincoln, who called it the People's Department because at the time most Americans were farmers and the department existed to serve them directly. Today, the USDA is one of the largest federal agencies in the country. It has a budget of roughly $280 billion and touches almost every American every single day, whether you know that or not. Here's what the USDA actually does. It administers SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which feeds roughly 42 million Americans. It runs the National School Lunch Program. It inspects the meat, poultry, and eggs in your grocery store. It manages 193 million acres of national forests and grasslands. It runs rural development programs that fund housing, infrastructure, and business development in small towns across the country. It provides farm loans to beginning farmers who can't access conventional credit. It funds agricultural research. It administers crop insurance, runs conservation programs that help farmers implement practices that protect soil and water, and it manages the safety net, the price floors, and subsidy programs that keep commodity crop farmers financially viable when markets collapse. That is an enormous mandate. Did you know all of that stuff was in there? The People's Department, as Lincoln called it, is in everyone's business in ways most people never see. But here's the thing. All of that was designed at a time when American agriculture looked very different. And over the decades, the way the USDA distributes its attention and resources has shifted in ways that matter enormously to the farmers that I work with every single day. Here's who it serves and who it doesn't. Let me explain what I mean. The USDA has two broad categories of programs. Programs that build something, like markets, technical capacity, land access, conservation, infrastructure, and programs that maintain something, price supports, crop insurance, emergency payments, and commodity subsidies. The building programs are newer, smaller, and more fragile. They include things like the local Food for Schools program, which connected small farms to institutional buyers, the Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities, which built markets for conservation practices, the Increasing Land, Capital, and Market Access program, which helped the next generation of farmers get onto land. These programs were explicitly designed to reach the farms that the USDA's traditional infrastructure doesn't reach. Small farms, diversified farms, beginning farmers, and historically underserved producers. The maintenance programs are older, larger, and deeply embedded. They are the price floor system, the agricultural risk coverage program, and the price loss coverage program that trigger automatic payments to commodity crop producers when prices fall below a certain level. They are the crop insurance subsidies that cover a portion of every farmer's premium. They are the emergency payment programs that flow when markets collapse. Here is the important thing to understand. Those maintenance programs were built around commodity crops, corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, rice, and peanuts. These crops have federal price floors. When prices fall, the check comes to those farmers automatically. A small farm growing vegetables doesn't have a price floor. A diversified farm raising pastured animals doesn't have a price floor. A beginning farmer growing salad greens in Vermont doesn't have a price floor. There is no automatic check for them when times get hard. And the subsidy distribution is dramatically skewed towards the largest operations. The top 10% of farmers capture 56% of all crop insurance subsidies. There are no income limits. A billionaire farmer receives the same subsidy structure as a struggling family farm. This is who the USDA has historically served. Not because anyone made an explicit decision that small farms don't matter, but because the architecture was built for a different era of American agriculture and it has never been fully redesigned. The building programs, those newer, smaller ones explicitly designed to reach the farms the traditional system misses, were the attempt to fix that, and they are exactly the programs that have been cut since January 2025. Let's dive into some of those changes. Here's a picture of what has happened to the USDA in the past year and a half. Let's go with the staffing cuts first because everything else flows from there. The USDA lost nearly 22,000 employees across 2025 and 2026, more than 1 in 5 workers. The Natural Resources Conservation Service, the NRCS, the agency that helps farmers design conservation plans and access federal programs, lost 22% of its staff. Rural Development, which funds infrastructure and business development in rural communities, lost 36%. The Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, which protects American agriculture from pests and disease, they lost 25% of their staff. This matters because federal farm programs don't administer themselves. The NRCS staff are the people who sit across the desk from a farmer and help them apply for a conservation program, design a whole farm plan, navigate that crazy amount of paperwork. And when those people are gone, the programs do not function, regardless of what's announced at a press conference. And that brings me to the program cuts. In 2025 and 2026, so far, the USDA cut or canceled nearly $5 billion in programs. The Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities, $3.1 billion. 14,000 farms and 3.2 million acres gone. Local food for schools, 660 million gone. Local food purchase assistance, bye-bye to 420 million. Emergency food assistance program purchasing, 500 million gone. The increasing land, capital, and market access program, 300 million. The only federal program designed specifically to help the next generation of farmers get onto land. 49 out of 50 contracts were terminated. And then in December 2025, the USDA announced a $700 million regenerative pilot program. Same practices as what was canceled. Same delivery agency, NRCS, which now has 22% fewer staff to deliver it, and less than a quarter of the money. It sounded like a good thing, but when you do the math, it's a major loss. The administration also announced a $12 billion farmer bridge assistance program to offset farm income losses. Those losses exist in large part because the administration's tariff policy triggered retaliatory tariffs from our three largest agricultural export markets, Canada, Mexico, and China. China placed a 34% tariff on American soybeans. Soybean exports to China fell from 985 million bushels in 2024 to effectively zero in June, July, and August of 2025. The $12 billion flows to commodity crop producers. The farms that lost the market building programs don't qualify. And on top of this, the reconciliation law enacted $187 billion in SNAP cuts and shifted program costs to states. The nutrition assistance program that feeds 42 million Americans is being restructured in ways that will affect both the families who depend on it and the farmers who supply the food bank and the school lunch supply chains. That's the picture. Staff cuts, program cancellations, a smaller replacement announcement, a bailout for the trade war damage, and restructuring of the nutrition programs that serves two ends of the same supply chain. Now let me come back to that congressional hearing for a second. Secretary Brooke Rollins has now testified before Congress 5 times since her confirmation in January 2025. In the most recent hearing before the Senate Agriculture Committee on June 11, 2026, came a particularly charged moment. Farm bankruptcies are up 46% nationwide and 70% in the Midwest. The USDA just confirmed the first domestic case of New World screwworm in 45 years, a potentially devastating livestock pest in Texas. And the department is still rebuilding after losing nearly a quarter of its workforce. Senator Klobuchar opened with the bankruptcy numbers. Representative Craig had done the same at the House hearing 6 days earlier. I'm not here to score political points. I want to make a more important observation. The Secretary of Agriculture is the person who is supposed to know how many farmers are in bankruptcy, not because it's a gotcha question, because that number is the most basic measure of whether the people she serves are okay. It is the floor of the conversation. If you don't know that number, what do you know? At the For Farmers movement, I know our numbers. Over 875 applications from all 50 states. 69% of those farmers are asking for support for basic infrastructure like irrigation systems, wash stations, hoop houses, coolers, fencing, hand tools. Grant applications are up 245% from 2023 to 2025. Farm bankruptcies up 46% in 2025, the second year in a row of increases. 315 Chapter 12 filings, and that only counts the farms large enough to qualify for Chapter 12. The small farms that depend on off-farm income to survive don't even show up in that number. They just close invisibly. I keep those numbers because someone has to. The federal government is not keeping them for small and diversified farms. There's no equivalent of the $44 billion commodity loss projection for a 40-acre vegetable farm in Vermont or a pastured poultry operation in Tennessee. No one built that system. The USDA was supposed to be the people's department, Lincoln's words, for all farmers. Right now, the question worth asking is, which people? Which farmers? I started this episode talking about what the USDA is. Let me end with what it could be. It could be an agency that knows its numbers, that knows how many farmers are in bankruptcy, how many farms closed last year, how many beginning farmers couldn't get onto land because the only program designed to help them was just terminated. It could be an agency whose market building programs are as large and as durable as its commodity support programs, where a small farm has as much of a safety net as a large commodity operation, where the architecture matches the actual diversity of American agriculture. It could be the People's Department again, for all the people. That's not where we are right now, but it's where we're headed if enough people understand what's at stake and show up for it. So here's what you can do today. You can nominate a farm at the link in the show notes. Costs nothing, takes less than 5 minutes. You can donate at the link in the show notes. Every single dollar, even single dollars, go directly to a farmer grant. No overhead is taken from your contribution. And you can follow along here because this conversation is just getting started. I'm Dana DiPrima, and this is One Bite is Everything. I'm so glad you're here. I'll be back again next week with another interview. Until then, eat like it matters, because it does.